We are here in the weeds, my friends. We're at that point in the offseason where we can genuinely take some time to talk about prospects and ask whether or not they are good enough to make the team. Let's dive into one of the hottest names that the Montreal Canadiens have had in their system the past 3 years and ask whether or not Florian Xhekaj has a chance to make the Habs soon. Florian, of course, is the younger brother of Montreal Canadiens sheriff defenseman Ivar, a guy whom the Canadiens signed out of the OHL, coming out of the pandemic, and coming out of an MVP stint working at Costco. Ivar Xhekaj was a fan-favorite Canadian from his debut with the team multiple seasons ago. Sure, you can say that over the years he hasn't really played himself up the lineup. You can say the total opposite, in fact. It's quite apparent that the Montreal Canadiens have had a number of defensemen enter the organization and prove really well, and inevitably push guys like Xhekaj down the lineup. And when you think about Ivar and his penalty issues, the discipline, and questions as to what else he brings to the game than just straight-up physicality and policing, there are some questions as to whether or not Ivar is going to be a long-term Hab. But you could also ask the same about his brother Florian, a 22-year-old 6'4", 205 left-handed left-wing center who had most recently played for the Laval Rocket. He had 29 points in 64 games this most recent season, which was worse than what he had accomplished the season before. Aside that fact, Florian was able to make his NHL debut earlier this season, posting up 1 assist in 5 games. The reason we are talking about Florian in today's video is because of what Grant McKenna went out there and spoke about in regards to Florian Xhekaj on his own show, The Habscast. Now, Grant, of course, is a podcaster. He used to be a scout, if I'm not mistaken, and he has amassed quite the following on social media over the years. When he says something about the Canadiens, there generally are people that listen, which is why we have to go out there and speak about his thoughts. This video, the Habscast number 338, or 388, excuse me, is titled, "Xhekaj is a long shot to make the Habs." Because this is a 2-hour-long segment, I will leave a link in the description if you want to go out there and watch it in its entirety. But there is a pretty distinct conversation on Florian. This was all summarized in an article posted on the Hockey News by Corrine Haynes earlier last week. Grant McKenna sees the younger Xhekaj as a long shot to making the Montreal Canadiens. In the latest episode of his Habcast podcast, former pro scout Grant McKenna covered a lot of topics, but one particularly caught Haynes' eye. His segment on Florian Xhekaj. Ivar's younger brother is seen by many as a future member of the Montreal Canadiens energy line, and there are even those who hope he can make the roster out of training camp. While it would certainly be a good story to see the brothers line up together for the Habs regularly, McKenna considers the forward a long shot to make the team out of camp. At the 31-minute mark of the show, he starts breaking up Xhekaj's play with the Laval Rocket in a couple of games in the Calder Cup Playoffs against the Toronto Marlies. McKenna's main concern with the Hamilton, Ontario natives game is his skating. He considers Xhekaj to be an average skater in the AHL, and therefore a below-average skater at the NHL level. According to McKenna, he hasn't improved much of his skating at all this season, and the former scout believes that might be down to putting on too much weight and his quest to become bigger and stronger. Where have I heard that before? A player's physicality and actual body disposition taking precedent over mobility and skating. It's almost like the exact same thing that we saw with Elias Pettersson last year, where the guy gained all this weight, and he said, oh, it's because I'm bulking up, I'm becoming bigger and stronger, and we were like, okay, so Pettersson's not going to get shoved around as much, right? But then the season began, and we were like, wait a minute, Pettersson's like slower now. That's not what we wanted either. Maybe Florian Xhekaj is going through a similar thing. Who really knows? I mean, 6'4", 205, pretty reasonable sized dude there when you think about the weight and height ratio. But Xhekaj does go out there and say it has had somewhat of a negative effect on Florian Xhekaj's development skating-wise. At 6'4", 204, Xhekaj does have a big body. However, a big body becomes much more efficient when it brings speed and velocity to hits. That's quite important in the NHL. How often has Martin St. Louis spoken about the importance of a player moving his feet to be efficient on the forecheck? Xhekaj does mention, however, that Xhekaj is doing well as a penalty killer and that this might be key to his eventual bid to make the NHL. Because of his lack of pace, he doesn't believe Xhekaj will be able to play as a center in the big league unless there is a significant improvement in that department. Xhekaj even goes as far as saying that he believes Owen Beck is more likely to make the Canadiens roster this season than Xhekaj. As things stand right now, the Canadiens' 12 forward spots are pretty much spoken for. Gallagher and Veleno left, but that means the Habs no longer have a 13th forward. Suzuki, Caulfield, Slavkovsky, Newhook, Kapanen, Demidov, Texier, Deneau, Anderson, Bolduc, Doc, and Jake Evans all have a chair. However, it's not exactly clear which chair is whose outside the top line, with Demidov being a fixture on the second line. Now, Owen Beck is an interesting name. The fact that he is a very responsible two-way center probably does give him the slight edge over Xhekaj, who would be seen more as an energy winger. Both of these guys are 22, entering the final year of their ELCs, and whichever way you look at it, being the 13th forward in the NHL wouldn't be optimal for their development. But it may be all that the Canadiens have to offer for now, at least. That being said, there will be injuries, there always are, or there could even be a trade that comes before training camp and changes things. But at this stage, it doesn't look very likely. I mean, Kirill Marchenko could always get sent over. Who really knows, right? I think this was always the idea that many Canadiens fans had in their minds as a best-case scenario type of move, where Florian Xhekaj is an NHL player, maybe Arber Xhekaj gets moved to the wing or something, like, there have been crazier things that have happened, right? And then you have other guys like, well, we would have said Brendan Gallagher, but he's not on the team anymore. I'm thinking Josh Anderson, maybe an Owen Protz finds his way on the Montreal Canadiens as some sort of an energy player too. I mean, you think about it, Owen Protz is like the most physical and mean prospect in hockey at the moment. He can play on D, have Arber Xhekaj as a D pairing, Florian can be there on the bottom, and then maybe Tyler Thorpe suits up on the right wing. There are a number of guys in the Montreal Canadiens organization that do have that mean streak to them. Heck, they just drafted Gleb Pugachev, who also has those similar traits. Thorpe is a dude that the Canadiens drafted a few years ago, and, I mean, his production ain't really the best in the AHL so far, but sometimes you just gotta let these fifth-round picks taken out of the Vancouver Giants cook. Last time the Canadiens did that, they ended up with Brendan Gallagher, so I'd say that's pretty fine. But Florian was always one of the closer guys to the NHL when it came to that physical, tough-to-play-against type of mold. Somebody that just amps up the violence and makes other players' lives a living hell. Whether or not that's going to be an immediate fixture on the Canadiens team next season is up for debate. But you can let me know your thoughts in the comment section below whether or not you agree with this assessment here. Florian Xhekaj being a long shot to making the Canadiens. Is this bad news for the development of this young prospect, or is it just another stepping stone that he is going to have to overcome? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Florian Xhekaj making the Habs. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.